Welcome to Professional Tutors, the British online school. We are a team of dedicated and qualified teachers here to help you reach your full potential.
Hello, here we are again. I think it's important that we recap as we're coming towards the end of this approach to learning, that we recap what we've been doing. When we get back at school, I will recap forces with you because you'll be able to get the magnets out and build some electromagnets and gravity, things like that, because you can then do it practically. As far as the plants are concerned, we'll recap that today. Amazing work again that you sent last week, incredible. Bowled over by some fabulous work. Keep it up, I'm really proud of what you've done, tremendous work. We'll start, what I did start with, and again, you provided some really detailed work. Whereas first of all, we looked at the plant structure. So we looked at the leaf and the stem. And you drew some amazing diagrams. Now, what are these that go into the ground? You're probably speaking to me now, telling me they're roots. And some of you, actually, when you sent the diagrams back, you put the little hairs on the roots called root hair. They're called root hair cells because what they do, they help to absorb water from the soil into something called a xylem. You even mentioned that, and I demonstrated this by using some celery, and I cut the celery and I put it in the food colouring, and the food colouring went up the xylem. What I should have done was kept it, recut and showed it you the week after, because when I looked at it the next day, it had gone right to the top. So that was another one that we did to demonstrate the movement of water through the plant. Then I felt that it was important for you to understand how plants make their own food by something called photosynthesis. It's a big word which you'll come across later, but they get the sunlight and then they get the green colour in the leaf. Can you remember what that green colour was called? Some of you wrote it out. Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, right? H-Y, right? Chlorophyll. Now, I showed you how chlorophyll can be removed. See that, look? And then I also demonstrated how plants make glucose. Now, this is another reason why it was important for us to investigate this, looking at food. Because looking at food, you need to understand that the most important foods, really, for all of us, for all organisms, are plants, because they provide us with the energy that we need. Now, I mentioned that it was glucose, and I got some water and I sprinkled the glucose in the water, but what happened was it dissolved. Well, a plant doesn't want that to happen because the rain would wash it away. So what it does, it stores it as what? Can you remember? The starch. It stores it as starch, like that, and it bonds them together. Chemical bonding. And because of that, it enables it to store it, and it's insoluble then. Another key word, insoluble. You've got all of these, and we'll go over these keywords when I see you again back at school. Insoluble means it doesn't dissolve, and that's what starch is. And if you can remember as well, what I did was, I got some iodine, and I got a range of starchy foods. Now, one of you, I think it was one or two of you, mentioned to me that these kind of foods, here we have flour, that's gone black, pasta, rice, there's a bit of rainwater got in here, I think it's contaminated slightly. Look at the amount of starch in these foods. So, flour, look at that, rice, pasta, bread. One thing I've forgotten is cereal, actually. I meant to put cereal there, but believe me, cereal goes the same colour as the pasta and the rice, because cereal has got lots of starch in. So, one or two of you, like I've just said, mentioned the fact that they're called carbohydrates. Bit of a long word. I'll write it in blue. Carbohydrates. That is basically food for energy. Carbohydrates are for energy. Very important. And it makes up most of our diet. Remember you did your food triangle or food plate? Amazing pieces of work. Well, carbohydrates makes up the bulk of what we eat. I've missed a while. Thank you for that. Energy. Carbohydrates are for energy. Can you remember I tested the egg and the cheese and that didn't do anything because there's no starch in it? That is proteins. And they are for growth and repair. Right? Growth and repair. They're proteins. So if I underline proteins, carbohydrates, and then there's one other food substance. And the egg had got it in, the cheese had got it in, and it's called fats. Fats. And they are needed for energy stores. Energy stores. We also need them for something else. It's a bit technical, but I'll just touch on it with you. Our body's made of lots and lots of billions of cells. Little cells. There used to be a plant and an animal cell in the lab at the back. And you've also looked at some of them down the microscope. Around the end of the cell is a membrane that allows things through. And that is made of fats, called lipids. The correct term really for fats is lipids. But we're just going to use it like this for today because that's all we need. Now earlier on, I was looking at some of these. Let's just move this out of the way. Now you may overlook these, but it gives us a very, very good idea of the amount of carbohydrates, proteins and fats that are in foods. Sometimes you see like, I don't think that one's got one, or that one. Sometimes you see like a traffic-like thing where you've got like green, red, and I think it's an amber. And that tells you if it's red, it has a lot of fat in it. If it's green, I think it's got low amount of fat in. But I was looking at these food labels earlier. This one is from pasta. And can you see there, it says typical values cooked. What that means is the nutrients that are in there. Where it says typical values, here's another one, look. Typical values. Now this is from bread. Now you'd think that bread would just be, like I said, carbohydrates, like that. But it's got other things in it. So let's have a look what bread has got. So if I was to do a table like this, and put nutrients. No, I'll put bread. Nutrients, no, that's right, nutrients. Right, nutrients. And this one is bread. Put nutrients there. And let's say that one's the pasta. So there's a title there, look, there's your table. Now if I look at the bread, it's got fat in it, it's got carbohydrates in it, it's got fibre in it, protein, salt, and it's also got vitamins in, look, see that? Vitamin B1. Vitamin B1. So that's all the ingredients that makes up bread. There's your nutrients, look, I've put that at the top. So fat, carbohydrates, fibre, protein, salt, vitamins. That's the bread. Let's have a look at the pasta. And then I want to talk to you about something that you're not familiar with. Let's have a look at the pasta then. Carbohydrates, fibre, protein, salt. Now you may be thinking to yourself, hang on a minute, it's got protein in it. Well, some carbohydrate foods have protein in, but not lots of it, like protein rich foods like fish and meat and things like that. So a lot of foods have got protein in, But these type of foods are called carbohydrate foods because they contain lots and lots of this energy. And if you have a look at it, it'll tell you the energy there. And it's calories. It's called calories. Now, I don't need to think about that right at the moment. So that's bread, that's pasta. But I also looked at this one, look. These things that I bought for my son, that he eats too many of. This one, what are they called? Skittles, right? Energy, forget that. I want to know what's in it. Fat, carbohydrates, protein again, and salt. So they've even got salt in because salt is an important ingredient. It brings out flavour. That's why people put salt on things when they're cooking. Now, what I'd like you to do for me in a minute when I've mentioned this word, because I bet you're not familiar with this one. Fibre is important in our diet because it keeps our digestive system working properly. And fibre is also in plant-based foods, and it's in fruit and it's in vegetables, like I said, plant-based food. And fibre is very important for the diet because it helps the digestive system to work properly. And that's why fibre is in the diet. It's in cereal, it's in bread, it's in potatoes, in vegetables, things like that. It's important that you have a good amount of fibre in your diet in order for it to work properly. People who don't have them can become ill if they don't have enough fibre. So we've done a nice recap today. We've looked at the structure of the plant, which you did an amazing job of. The fact that glucose is stored as starch. Like I said, the reason I wanted you to do this is to appreciate the importance of plants in a diet, right? I've discussed what carbohydrates are for. They're here. You can stop the video and have a look again. Proteins and fats. They are the main nutrients that are in foods. And I gave you some examples here of nutrients that I found in three of the labels: bread, pasta, and then the other one I think was sweets, wasn't it? We called it sweets. Can you remember what they mainly consisted of? Carbohydrates. They also had lots and lots of sugars, right? Different types of sugars. It's called processed sugar. It's white, not like glucose, right? And that's how I'll show you what I mean. Here, look. Fat, sugars there, look. Lots of sugars in these. You've got to be careful. Lots of sugar in your diet, bad for your teeth. Thank you. So that's another reason that we need to be aware of what's in the foods that we eat. Now, fibre, I've discussed that with you. Carbohydrates, what did I say? Let's recap. Here it is for energy. Fats, energy stores. They are all in different foods at different values. But the one with the highest value of carbohydrates are the starchy foods, right? The starchy foods, bread, pasta, flour, rice. They form our energy-giving diet. For example, the pasta, I discussed it with you last week. Lots and lots of slow-releasing energy in pasta. So sports people will take that before matches because it gets released slowly. The stuff that I showed you earlier in the Skittles, rubbish, right? I'll tell you why. Because this is fast-releasing sugar. So this is gone in no time. And also it's bad for your teeth and things like that. It's nowhere near like carbohydrates. It's just single processed sugar, which is like a white powder, very, very sweet. And it's just put in stuff like this. It's not very good for you. It's all right occasionally, but not all the time. We've discussed this in class with diet. So I've recapped for you. I think it's going to rain, actually. I've just about got away with this one. So I'll see you back at school very soon. Well, what I want you to do for me, the task, is have a look at some foods at home. Have a look at the labels and write down what nutrients are in the food. You'll be surprised, different ones. I was looking at some in the kitchen earlier and they're quite surprising. And have a look for that food traffic light system. See if you can see that. But what I want you to do for me, and you can draw it like you did last week and photograph it, or you can do it on a Word document and insert a table. But have a look at some food labels for me and then send me what you've got. But last week, I mean within a few hours, I've got loads of work coming through, so well done. And I'll see you at school.